Most League of Legends fans know that the greatest player of all time is Faker. He's appeared in a total of 13 out of 18 international Worlds and MSI events, won 4
times they've been knocked out, and 4 times they have got back up for this moment! It was 7 years since their loss, a decade since their first. The SKT legacy has been reignited. T1!
And is still competing at the highest level after 10 years of professional play. And many wonder if any will be able to challenge his legacy. Over the last decade, there have been a few mid laners who could be considered rivals of Faker, but none of them have seriously been held in the same esteem as their T1 nemesis. But what if I told you there exists Faker's equal? A player known as the Dark King of solo queue who never ended up going pro. He was #1 on the Korean ladder for years, was and still is an innovator of the game, and is respected the world over. This is the tragedy of the god who never got his chance at the big leagues. This is the story of Apto. I mean, Dopa.
자, 이럴 때는 일부러 맞아주면 돼요. 그러면 미니언이 말파이트를 때리는데 이거 봐, 이거 봐. 이 미니언이 자기를 때리는 걸 모른다니까?
Jong Sang-gil was born in Korea in 1993. He began playing League of Legends in 2011 under the name Apto during Season 2. Right off the bat, Apto found success.
죽는다고. 죽을지도 몰라. 아.
He was primarily a mid laner, but could easily fill in any other role his team needed, thanks to his seemingly innate understanding of the game. His macro knowledge of League of Legends was unmatched, and his micro, especially with his favorite champs, Twisted Fate and Orianna, was incredibly precise. It didn't take long for him to begin climbing the leaderboards, and by 2013, he was ranked #1 on the Korean ladder. Even when the meta favored assassins or any other types of champ, he wrote guides showing players how to find success despite the cards being stacked against them.
자, 이제 여기서 피즈가 습관적으로 라인에 오자마자 미니언한테 평타 한 대를 치는데 저는 이 순간에 라인전이 끝났다고 생각을 했어요.
So, if he was so good, why didn't he go pro? Well, in 2013, Apto turned 20 and was preparing to ship off for compulsory military service. It looked like the end of his League of Legends career. That is, until 2 weeks later, when he decided to postpone his service and continue streaming. The real answer of why he didn't go pro is money. In the early days of competitive League of Legends, the money wasn't necessarily in competition. It was in ranked play, specifically through elo boosting. His business model was as follows: play with a lower ranked client and handily win every game, collect payment. Apto was the best in the game and was offered top dollar for his services. The problem? Elo boosting is explicitly against League of Legends terms of service. In most parts of the world, it's easy enough to elo boost under the table. Make a burner account, play through a VPN, and unless you straight up admit to doing it, it's unlikely you'd get in trouble. Back in 2013 in the LCS in North America, 7 LCS players and 1 coach, some of whom are recognizable names that are still in the community today, were caught elo boosting other players, doing the exact same thing that Apto was doing. Their punishment? A 2-week ban and no seasonal rewards. But in Korea, it's a little bit different. Korean League of Legends accounts are tied to your social security number, meaning it's comically easy for Riot to track you down if you're misbehaving. And to say the least, it's pretty clear that Apto was a bad boy. Not only was he elo boosting around the clock, he was also extremely toxic. Korea's best player would talk the talk, but had an extremely weak mentality. If he was losing, he'd just leave the game. And his influence was so prevalent that at one point, he was boosting a player who was about to rank up the challenger when they came across Faker. Believing that his lane, mid, was the most important, Apto refused to beat Faker and risk lowering the GOAT's rank. So, Apto threw, which in turn caused Faker's team to throw, not wanting to feed Apto's ego and let him win. It's a whole story that we'll get into another time, but suffice to say, Apto was good enough to toy with some of the best players in the world. Okay, let's recap. Apto is the best player in Korea. He's openly elo boosting for profit and was being extremely toxic to anyone and everyone. Oh, And to top it all off, when he wasn't elo boosting, he was streaming. Basically, everyone knew who Opto was, and pretty much everyone knew what he was doing. During this time, Opto was making so much money that he turned down multiple offers to join competitive teams. But eventually, he had a change of heart. He put together a team of 4 other solo queue players he deemed to be as good as himself and decided to challenge the established pros of the day. His super team was called Team Dark, and they were set to play in the Pandora Champions Winter Tournament in 2013, but unfortunately, Opto never made it to the event. The story goes that Opto had been elo boosting a player who had allegedly developed romantic feelings for him. He rejected her, and in retaliation, she leaked all of his account information online, filed an official complaint to Riot, and put him in the hot seat. Riot found Opto guilty of elo boosting and banned his main account for 1,000 years, meaning he wouldn't be able to compete with Team Dark. On top of his 1,000-year ban, Opto was also banned from competing in tournaments for 2 years. Team Dark managed to find a replacement for Opto and ended up qualifying to play in Champions 2014 Winter, but it was clear they weren't on the same level as their competition. After losing 0-2 to Nanjing White Shield, they had one more series to play against Samsung Ozone. After losing Game 1, Team Dark locked in all jungle champs as an homage to the recently retired Cloud Templar.
Yes, Trundle, yeah, there it is!
And the result was the shortest game of competitive League of Legends ever.
And they're doing a quite nice job. There's the dragon. Oh, man, they're coming in right on the Mata. Mata a little bit low. There's the trophy as well. Sevilla already gets taken out. They do manage to get 1 kill, 2 kills though. Low enough. Double kill for Dandy. Trundle dies to something somewhere. And there goes the Nexus, guys. 8 minutes, the Nexus down to about half health.
Team Dark was disqualified for throwing the match, and no one on that squad ever competed professionally again. Although he was competitively barred from tournaments, Opto didn't stop grinding solo queue and streaming to the masses. Opto was in the Shadow Realm for the next 1,000 years, but like a phoenix rising from the ashes, there was born again a new solo queue god, Dopa. Dopa was a man of many faces. Since he was banned for 1,000 years, and that ban was tied to his social security number, Dopa couldn't just make a new account and start playing again. So, he borrowed. He'd make it to number 1, get banned, and then do it all over again. As one Reddit user put it, he is like a ghost. Then, he saw an ad for a Chinese League of Legends competition. It wasn't a pro team or a sponsorship, but rather a challenge for League players to hit number 1 on the ranked ladder in a set period of time. The reward was 500,000 yuan, roughly 80,000 USD, so Dopa did what any other 21-year-old would do. He dropped everything, flew to China, and got to work. The expectation was that it would take a couple of months for anyone to reach number 1 on the ladder. However, Dopa isn't anyone, and it took him only 16 days to play 239 games with a win rate of 75%. In less than a month, he rose to the top and collected his prize money, leading to one of the best photos in all of esports. Luckily for Dopa, the Korean servers weren't the be-all end-all. He made the jump across the Yellow Sea and began playing on the Chinese servers. While Dopa would have been instantly banned for streaming Korean solo queue games, he didn't have any restrictions on Chinese servers, which allowed him to move from Africa TV to Douyu TV and quickly peaked at 45,000 viewers, which was pretty good for back in the early days of streaming. With everything that's happened so far, it was obvious that Dopa had what it took to go pro and compete at the highest level, but he slowly came to terms with himself not being able to compete mentally. In 2015, after the 2-year ban was up, Dopa put out an official apology, addressing his elo boosting, toxicity, and abandoning games. The most important part would come in another apology article, where Dopa mentioned that he probably didn't see himself becoming a pro player not just in Korea or China, but anywhere at all. From 2016 onward, Dopa hit the top rank in both the Korean and Chinese super servers 8 times in a row, bringing us all the way to 2021. Dopa continued to stream on Douyu until transferring over to Twitch, where the solo queue god continued to stream his games on Chinese servers and still excites pros and fans with his crazy plays. In 2021, things would catch up to Dopa. Well, remember back in 2013 when Opto decided to fulfill his military service, then decided not to keep playing League of Legends? Well, males in Korea have to complete their military service between the ages of 20 to 31. Dopa was preparing to finally fulfill that military service. As a final goodbye, he decided to make public all of the tips, tricks, and secrets he'd amassed over the years. He went into great detail about even the simplest things in League of Legends: how to use recalls, synergies between runes and items, basic stuff like that. He also explained the intricacies of decision making, flowcharts, and how to operate as a high-level player day in and day out. It was a swan song to the League of Legends community, and a parting gift to the game he'd spent the last decade mastering. After a fond farewell to his fans, Dopa shipped out once and for all, and then repeated history by returning just 1 week later, having postponed his trip again. In August of 2023, he finally had to go do his military service. His last goodbye was recorded on stream. In a message to his fans, he wrote, quote, "This isn't goodbye, but it will be a long time before I see you again." Although Dopa was never able to reach the same heights that he did early in his career, his popularity in the League of Legends community, especially in Asia, cannot be understated. To this day, he is still considered by many to be the greatest multi-lane player of all time, and although he never formally debuted in the professional scene, he was certainly a patron of the arts, keeping up to date with every Worlds he could to DRX's Miracle Run last year.
다시 한 번? 와!
Being so talented, but having a controversial start to his career, Dopa matured over the years and has become very well respected, both in and out of the Rift. He showed complete dominance with an incredible record of 8 seasons ranked #1 in Korea, and it's hard to argue with his resume. Still, many fans wonder what kind of story we might have missed out on. Had Dopa gone pro, what would his rivalry with Faker have looked like on the main stage? While they played in solo queue plenty of times, there was never a Worlds or LCK trophy on the line. And so, he will forever remain one of the biggest what-ifs in League of Legends history. This has been the story of Dopa, the greatest League player to never go pro. This video is made possible thanks to our wonderful patrons. Massive thank you to everyone on this list, and shout out to B, Pass, Retro, Shampoo, and Yashichi for being Platinum supporters. And an extra special shout out to Cloud and Steph for being our Diamond supporters. Happy holidays, y'all! If you want to talk to us, check out our Discord. If you want to support our channel and get info on unreleased videos, check out our Patreon. If you want to help us out in a different way, leaving a like, subscribing, and hitting the bell to stay up to date is also appreciated. My name is Jonah, thanks for watching.